What's up guys, it's Aaronitmar. No, your YouTube playing device isn't broken because today we are talking about Echo Fighters. Specifically an idea that I haven't seen echoed, get it, too much, though I've seen it here and there around the internet. And that is the idea of an Echo Fighter Pass. Now, we've got the Fighter Pass, and that is awesome, but it really just seems odd to me that they went through all of the effort of rebranding clones as Echo Fighters just to introduce only 5 new characters who fit that role. They even explained that it helps to increase the roster without really stressing the development team, but then they barely added any. Effectively, it's slapping a new model over a pre-existing moveset, maybe adding some extra fluff or unique visuals, and then calling it a day. It really takes a fraction of the time that a normal character would take. And with Ultimate being very early in the Switch's life cycle, Nintendo will seemingly want to continue to support this game for years to come, so the Echo Fighter Pass would be a really easy way to do just that. So it would seem like a perfect opportunity to sell them separately from the DLC Fighter Pass. Now, I know the Fighter Pass itself won't include Echo Fighters because they said so, blah blah blah, but that doesn't mean that they can't sell them separately. I would gladly pay $5 for an Echo Fighter Pass if it meant that some cool characters could join the roster, even if they were just basic Echo Fighters. There's literally no downside to this. You don't want the Echoes? Cool, you don't have to buy them, and you aren't really missing out on much because that character's moveset already exists in the game. You effectively just aren't getting the model. So with that idea out there, let's talk about some characters that I think would fit nicely in this alternate Fighter Pass. It's actually funny because of all the Smash Ultimate discussion videos I've made since the game was announced, I've never made a video specifically talking about Echo Fighters. Alright, I made one video, but that one was a big joke. I mean, I literally said Fortnite guy should be in the game as a Snake Echo Fighter, so don't take that one seriously. But I've never made a serious video only talking about Echo Fighters. I've included them in some discussion, but I've never made only a video about Echoes, so I figured now is as good a time as any while we're still talking about DLC and while DLC is still on the table. So first, I just want to see any new Kong. I know we got K. Rool as a rep, but that's the newest Donkey Kong rep literally in 2 games, and then Diddy was the newest rep for 2 games as well, so the fact that we only have 3 Kongs after 5 Smash games really says a lot. And K. Rool was literally only added as fan service because of the Smash ballot. So I am genuinely surprised that Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong have been the only Kong representatives for the Kong clan for the entire series. It would be really awesome to see a new Kong join, even as just an Echo Fighter. The 2 that come to everyone's minds are Funky Kong and Dixie Kong. Funky Kong is a recurring Kong, sometimes suspected to be Donkey Kong's brother, but nonetheless he is part of the Kong clan. He often runs different shops and stands and sells items or services that aid the player, and he desperately tries to convince everyone how cool he is. And he does a good job because Funky Kong is literally super cool. He's roughly the same size as Donkey Kong, so it would be a rather straightforward process to put his moveset on Funky. And this wouldn't even be using his potential for more unique moves, like including a surfboard or something. I mean, he was recently playable for the first time, not including Mario Kart Wii, so it would be neat if they added some kind of unique thing to him, maybe as even a taunt, he could pull out a surfboard or something, but as an Echo Fighter, it would be very, very cool. Now, they could also go the Diddy Kong route and make Dixie Kong an Echo for Diddy as well. This was something that many actually theorized about in the lead up to Ultimate because they noticed that a very small detail was changed about Diddy's multi-jab. Now, many thought that this was done so that Dixie could be an Echo Fighter. In previous titles, Diddy Kong would use his tail for his multi-jab, but because Dixie doesn't have a tail, this wouldn't work for her if she was to be an Echo Fighter. So the fact that they changed the moveset to take away the tail portion led people to believe that maybe Dixie would be an Echo Fighter. And this can still easily work if the DLC Echo Fighter Pass was real. Just because they didn't do it for the base game doesn't mean it's now suddenly impossible to do for DLC. However, I do think that Dixie would have to borrow from Donkey Kong if she was put into the game, in the same way that Chrom borrowed from Ike. It simply would not be Dixie Kong if she didn't have her iconic hair spin. And fortunately, Donkey Kong himself has this as his own recovery move. There's been the theory since Smash 64 that Donkey Kong actually took this from Dixie in Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Country 3, as he really doesn't have any move that he uses himself in any of his games. So this would kind of come full circle for the Kongs. Donkey Kong borrowed this from Dixie in her appearances in the Super Nintendo games, and then when Dixie finally joins the Smash roster, she gets this move herself. Next, let's jump third party and talk about a Sonic Echo Fighter. And I can hear you already typing, Shadow is an assist trophy, he can't be an Echo! But Shadow isn't the only character that could be ported over Sonic. Tails could probably work, but I mean, it would be a real shame for his recovery move to be anything but his flying with his tail spin. But if they were really pressed for a fighter, they could make it work. Sonic and Tails pretty much use the same moveset except for the flying, so it would work. I mean, it wouldn't be ideal, but they kind of gave Shadow the axe, so Tails is kind of the next best thing. Unless they wanted to go the classic Sonic route or something, which I mean, I'd be all on board for. But Sonic being joined by any other Sonic the Hedgehog fighter really just seems like it's a pipe dream at this point. Sega now has 3 properties that are represented in Smash: Sonic, Bayonetta, and Joker, and even though the latter 2 are just properties that Sega owns or helps publish, they didn't really have a clear hand in developing them, but they're still kind of Sega properties in a way. But man, it really just seems like a shame that Shadow didn't get in, even as an Echo Fighter. I mean, the only issue is that Shadow doesn't use springs nearly as much as Sonic, so his up B would be weird, but they easily could have made that like a Chaos Control upward move or something. It just really seemed like he was a shoo-in just by them introducing Echo Fighters, that I'm genuinely surprised that he wasn't in. But Sonic really just seems like he is destined to be the only fighter representative from his series, which I guess makes sense. Definitely not really much of an opportunity to include an Echo Fighter, just because all of the characters, that have spin dashes or, any kind of moveset that Sonic has, they also have unique things about them that you would want to see included in a moveset. So while Tails could be an Echo Fighter because he does everything that Sonic does, he also wouldn't really be a good representation of himself if he was an Echo Fighter, so it would work, but it wouldn't be ideal. But moving from one Shadow, let's go to another Shadow. Black Shadow from F-Zero. Now, for those not in the know, and let's face it, that's probably most of you, F-Zero hasn't had a release in literally a decade and a half. Black Shadow is essentially the big bad guy for the F-Zero series, or as much of a bad guy as you can have for a racing game. Now, his body type is very similar to Captain Falcon, though he is a bit bigger, so he kind of is closer to Ganondorf if I had to put him on one or the other. But this is where some imagination could come in. In Melee, Ganondorf was a Captain Falcon clone, and he was slowly made more and more different in each Smash game until he finally got his sword in Ultimate, and he kind of works as his own character. I mean, he still is kind of a semi-clone for Captain Falcon, but he also has been made unique enough to not be. Now, this would be a really unique opportunity to adopt Ganondorf's old moveset onto Black Shadow. While Captain Falcon has always been quick and able to rack up damage very quickly, Ganondorf was always slow, but his hits were so meaty. 3 hits and you'd probably match the damage of 10 hits from Captain Falcon. Now, I think it would be really cool if Black Shadow sort of met them in the middle. He's slower than Captain Falcon, but he's faster than Ganondorf, and he's got a similar damage median. And it would be a really cool way to not only represent F-Zero more than just Captain Falcon, but also have a full old Ganondorf moveset repurposed for a brand new character. Like, yeah, it's great that Ganondorf has his sword and everybody's wanted that, but they only really wanted that because that character is Ganondorf, and it's weird that he doesn't really do anything that Ganondorf does in his games until Ultimate. So having that old moveset on a brand new F-Zero character, I think would be a very happy middle, especially now that Ganondorf is so separate from Captain Falcon. Another third-party option could be Jean from the Bayonetta series. Jean is another Umbra Witch, just like Bayonetta, and is Bayonetta's friend and rival. Their moveset would pretty much be exactly the same, and they basically have the same skill set and powers, so that makes sense. The Smash team could also design 2 alternate appearances for her, just like they did with Bayonetta, as she received a makeover between the events of Bayonetta 1 and 2. Although I can imagine some Bayonetta mains would probably be really mad that there's literally a second Bayonetta now in Smash, and she's still completely nerfed into the ground. But let's not worry about that, I think it would be a cool Echo Fighter. Moving back to first party, I think that Octolings would be a very cool addition to Ultimate, especially considering that Splatoon is Nintendo's most popular modern IP. There just really isn't a contest in my eyes. Splatoon is just so massive compared to other things like ARMS. Splatoon just blows them out of the water. Now, in Splatoon 1, Octolings were kinda just the bad guys. They just kinda needed to put a face to the enemy. But in Splatoon 2, and specifically the Octo Expansion DLC, the Octolings play a much bigger role, as the player takes control of an Octoling for the duration of the expansion story, even allowing the player to use the Octoling in online multiplayer. They've become a bigger part of the Splatoon story, and since they wield pretty much the same weapons as the Inklings, they're kind of like Echo Fighters in their own right in their home series. The colors and clothing are all similar as well. You can use the same customization that Inklings have, so they can make 8 uniquely colored and clothed Octolings for Smash as well. Unless they want to go the way of a whole new moveset, and that's actually one of their plans for a Fighter Pass slot, I think that they would work very, very well as an Echo Fighter. Finally, come on Nintendo, just throw the Mother fans a bone. There's literally been 0 new content for Mother for years. The closest thing we got was Mother 1 released officially as Earthbound Beginnings in the West in 2015. And that was literally just sitting at Nintendo already fully translated for 25 years. Mother fans are just so loyal and patient and dedicated that they just deserve a bone thrown at them. Stick Nintendo in. He could be a NES Echo Fighter, or maybe he can be a combo Echo Fighter between NES and Lucas, but come on, these guys deserve something. Either that or give us a Mother 3 translated, whichever you want to take. It's one or the other, okay? And I don't know why I'm the one to decide this, but you pick. Nintendo Smash or Mother 3 translated. But just imagine how cool it would be to finally, officially have all 3 Mother protagonists in a single game, fully modeled, standing next to each other. That would be so awesome, and I'd honestly be really interested to see how they would handle the design of Nintendo, since he really doesn't have much of a modern design outside of the weird 8-bit NES design that he has. There are tons of fan creations imagining what Nintendo would look like, so I'd love to see what the Smash team comes up with if this was the case. Lastly, and this isn't really a guess, like a character name, it's kind of just something I think would be cool to see, but I think it would be very nice if we had another Simon and Richter situation with one of the official Fighter Pass characters, whoever that fighter may be. I won't make any guesses in this video because I made a whole separate video talking about my Fighter Pass predictions, so you can check that out if you want. But I really liked both Simon and Richter being added as Castlevania reps. I mean, they're literally 99% the same, so as a player, you know that you aren't missing out on a different playstyle because you prefer Richter over Simon. You're kind of just getting the same thing with a different skin. So having something like that for the Fighter Pass would, I think, be very, very unique, and I'd be 100% on board with whoever that would be. But like I said at the beginning, I just think that the effort of coming up with a brand new term for clone characters in an effort to rebrand them and make the public have a better view of them was just a lot of work for only a handful of new characters to be included in that brand. I think that there was a missed opportunity to include much more than they did. And Echo Fighters can easily increase the reps in the game without taxing the development team, especially considering that they added an Echo Fighter stacking option in the menus for just a handful of characters. It really just seems kinda weird. But let me know what you think of this video, what you think of my Echo Fighter picks, and let me know what you think of any Echo Fighters that you would like to see in the game. Maybe I missed one because, you know, I just am dumb and I missed one. So I'd love to know, let me know down in the comments what you think. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave a like. If you are new, then be sure to subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Peace out, you guys, and I hope you have an awesome day.